Hello and welcome to a bonus episode of the Days of Roar podcast. I'm Evan Petzold, the Detroit Tigers beat writer for the Detroit Free Press, and I'm joined, as always, by Mark Gorash. It's Thursday, February 13th at 1 a.m. from my rental car in Lakeland, Florida, as Free Press columnist Jeff Seidel gets his beauty sleep inside the house we're renting for spring training. Jeff has kicked me out of the house, so here I am in my rental car, and here's the news. The Boston Red Sox have signed third baseman Alex Bregman to a 3-year, $120 million contract with opt-out clauses after the 2025 and 2026 seasons. The Red Sox, Tigers, and Cubs were the finalists for Bregman. The Houston Astros and Toronto Blue Jays all showed interest but weren't in the mix at the end. As for the Tigers, they swung and they missed in the Bregman sweepstakes, which is a huge disappointment, but they made a really competitive offer, 6 years, $171.5 million with some deferred money and an opt-out clause after the 2026 season. The Chicago Cubs, by the way, offered 4 years, $120 million with opt-out clauses after the 2026 and 2027 seasons, but it was the Boston Red Sox landing Alex Bregman for $40 million per season for the next 3 seasons, while giving Bregman the opportunity to return to free agency at any point during the 3-year contract. Mark, the Tigers don't get Alex Bregman. The Boston Red Sox do. What do you think?
Well, I think their offer was competitive. And as I was discussing with the Magic Man, Robin Chan, before we started, negotiations always remind me of real estate, which is you always make the money on the buy, not the sell. That's a pretty famous quote. It's not 100% accurate, but most of the time it is. So it looks like in retrospect, the real time to sign Alex Bregman was off the jump, not now. And at the end of the day, I'm going to ask you a question. And I want you to give me the honest answer. All right. Alex Bregman, anything short of an MVP caliber season in Boston this year, do you really see him opting out of 3 years, $120 million? Really? For sure? Are you sure about that? You really see him opting out of that deal, do you?
I don't think so, but the avenue is there for him to opt out if he wants. And, and you're right with the Tigers. Like, if they would have been on this from the jump, maybe they would have had a chance. But at the same time, from the jump, Alex Bregman wanted 7 years, $200 million. So he wouldn't have taken the Tigers offer anyway. Like, I thought the Tigers put together a very competitive offer when it comes to 6-year contract, $171.5 million, and an opt-out clause after the 2026 season. Well, if you're Alex Bregman, you're not turning down $40 million a year. Like, that's the biggest difference, is the Tigers essentially offered $28.58 million per season over 6 years, whereas the Red Sox offered $40 million per season over 3 years. And the Tigers obviously included their opt-out clause after the 2026 season, whereas the Red Sox included opt-out clause after the 2025 and 2026 season. So by picking the Red Sox, Bregman gets $40 million this season, which is more than the $30.5 million he made last season. And he gets to test the free agent market again next offseason. And I get your point. Like, he's probably not turning down $40 million next season to go back into free agency. But if he just so happens to have a $200 million type offer that he feels like he can get in free agency next offseason, maybe he does turn that down if he's able to get that long-term $200 million deal that he was looking for this offseason and didn't end up getting, which is exactly why if the Tigers would have done 6 years, $171.5 million from the jump, they wouldn't have got him. It's the same reason why the Houston Astros, when they had 6 years, $156 million on the table at the very beginning, they didn't get him either, because Alex Bregman wanted 7 years. He wanted $200 million. The Tigers were never going to touch $200 million. That was something that they made very clear from the very beginning of the offseason. And now they end up with a very competitive offer that ultimately didn't get the job done. But I do think you have to give President of Baseball Operations, Scott Harris, a lot of credit for going out there and making an offer like this. Like, this was not a chump change, 3-year, 4-year offer. Like, this was a 6-year, This was a long-term commitment to Alex Bregman. And I think the Tigers do deserve some credit for that.
100%. It was a legitimate offer. 100%. I'm going to ask you a second part of this question. Let's say Alex Bregman stays 3 years, $120 million. He's 33 years old, goes back into free agency, plays these 3 years. Do you think he can generate a contract that's greater than 3 years, $50 million on the backside of those 3 years?
It's such a great question. Like, I'm so curious to see if Alex Bregman stays in Boston as a member of the Red Sox for all 3 years of this contract, and he cashes in his $120 million over 3 years. What does his market look like coming out of that? Like, I'm not so sure. And it's been interesting the way that Scott Boras, Alex Bregman's agent, has parlayed contracts in the past. Like, he did the short-term contract with Blake Snell, which had the opt-out. Blake Snell then opts out, and he gets the big deal that he was looking for, from the Los Angeles Dodgers. I'm just not so sure, again, if is Alex Bregman really going to be able to get more than $40 million, or is he really going to get that long-term deal if he opts out after the upcoming 2025 season? I'm not so sure. So if he is opting in, like, what does a deal for Alex Bregman really look like on the other side of these 3 years? That's a really great question, Mark. I'm not so sure what it's going to look like. Obviously, time will tell. It all depends on performance. Like, if this is a guy who's, banging a ton of doubles off the Green Monster and hitting a bunch of home runs over the Green Monster, and he's having 30 home run seasons, anything's possible. Never say never. But I'm just not so sure that this is going to work out for him very well long term. But at the same time, 3 years, $120 million, you're making $40 million a year. Like, that's incredible. Like, that's incredible from an AAV standpoint. And also 3 years, $120 million, get a chance to play in Boston for the Red Sox. You have a chance to win the World Series. Like that. I don't know, man. Like, there are a lot of good things about this deal for Alex Bregman, but I'm just not so sure about the long-term play on this one.
All right. 2 more fun questions. And these are purely fun because damn, we don't know the answers. And what I do know is my podcast partner is an unbelievable detective. So in the next 2 weeks, I'm sure we'll know a lot of answers. But does 4 years, 150 to 160 million with an opt-out after the first year get the job done?
I have no idea, man. I mean, we'll see. I mean, again, I'll ask questions. I'll try to poke around, but I'm not so certain. I have no idea. I haven't even given that a thought yet. So we'll get there when we get there. Maybe for Monday's episode, we'll drop some more knowledge.
All I'm saying is, yes, it was a very competitive offer, but I've been yelling the word structure for 2 months. And I somehow, when you want to make deals, if you really want to make them, you try to make it really uncomfortable for the person to say no. And that's all I got to say. It was a really, really good try. It was an outstanding offer. It was a really competitive offer. And at the end of June, if they need a third baseman really bad, there's going to be a lot of yelling. And it's not going to be from me, but it's going to be from everybody. Okay? So all I'm saying is we're going to find out how this works out. You and I have been saying that Matt Vierling was plan B all along. People scoffed at that. There is no doubt that Matt Vierling, they are 100% comfortable with him playing third base. He is plan B. I'm not saying they're not going to sniff around a few things. So let's get into that. Is there a plan B beyond Matt Vierling?
Well, I think we can't rule out Jace Jung here in this situation. Like, the Tigers do have Matt Vierling, a clubhouse leader, as a guy who's prepared himself to play third base. He's come into spring training. I talked to him on Wednesday. He said, look, here's the deal. I'm prepared to play third base, but if we sign Alex Bregman, then obviously I'll change and I'll go play in the outfield. But I'm preparing to play third base. That's what Matt Vierling had said to me. And so Matt Vierling is all in on third base. But again, we can't forget about Jace Jung, a former top 100 prospect, still a top prospect in the Tigers organization. And he's a left-handed hitter and could get a ton of looks against right-handed pitchers. It really just depends on what the Tigers do the rest of the offseason. Do they go out and make a trade for a position player, or do they stand pat with the position player group that they have? Because if they stand pat with what they have, I see Kerry Carpenter DHing. I see Matt Vierling playing a lot of right field, and I see Jace Jung playing a lot of third base in that situation. And if things need to be restructured because Jace Jung is a poor defender at third base, then so be it. But the Tigers like Kerry Carpenter at DH. They want to protect him and his health. And, I think they like the idea of having a guy like maybe Wenzel Perez or Justin Henry Malloy coming off the bench, being a bench bat, as opposed to being an everyday player. Matt Vierling is an everyday player. And so if Matt Vierling is going to be in right field because Kerry Carpenter is going to be at DH, then who's playing third base? That might just be Jace Jung. So we'll see how some of all this, shakes out in spring training. We've got 42 days until opening day. So there's a lot of time to figure this out. But yeah, I think Vierling obviously is a front runner, but don't count out Jace Jung. There's no reason to count him out. I thought, again, the defense is a huge question mark and almost it's a problem at third base. But what I did like about Jace Jung last season when he came up was he was a gritty player. He played tough. He drew walks. He made really smart swing decisions. I would have liked to see him eliminate some of the swing and miss and some of the strikeouts. It seemed like he was just trying to hit home runs. He's still trying to get his first big league home run. So it seemed like he was pressing for that a little bit too much. But Jace Jung, I mean, he draws walks. He swings at the right pitches. That's kind of what the Tigers like out of their players. And he has that 20 to 25 homer upside. I don't think we should be sleeping on Jace Jung, especially if Kerry Carpenter is going to be DH and Matt Vierling needs to get everyday reps. Matt Vierling is an outfielder. He also fits best in the outfield too. Like right field is Matt Vierling's best position. Yes, he can play third base. Yes, he can hold it down. Yes, he's a better third baseman than Jace Jung, but at the same time, Matt Vierling is best in right field. That's where he fits best. And so if that's the case, I'm not ruling out Jace Jung to play third base. I think I'd like to see the Tigers give him some runway. And if it goes terribly, then you can send him down to Toledo and you can move Matt Vierling to third base. Like I like the upside of the Jace Jung and Matt Vierling in the everyday lineup as opposed to just one or the other, because the upside definitely is there with Jace Jung. We can't forget about that. And if it doesn't work out, then you know what? Send him down to Toledo and Matt Vierling can be your everyday third baseman. I don't think we should be discounting Jace Jung at this point in the process.
All right. So my question to you, the Tigers need a right-hand hitter or a left-hand hitter in their lineup right now?
Oh, they need a right-handed hitter. That's the thing, is they really do need a right-handed hitter.
So if they need a right-hand hitter and everything you just described about Jace Jung was Justin Henry Malloy, except better, okay? Great at-bats, great swing decisions, improved all along, and he actually hit a few bombs, okay? The idea that we're going to try to, wrap Kerry Carpenter in bubble wrap, I need AJ Hinch to say that to me before I believe 100% that's what's going to happen. But I think there's a good chance that, between Wenzel Perez, Justin Henry Malloy, Jace Jung, and one, I don't like to go in the new beautiful batting cage, Spencer Torkelson, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody surprises us and, performs very well. And I'm talking regular season. I'm not talking some afternoon in Clearwater in one of my favorite stadiums ever. But, I think there's room for a lot of things to happen here, Ev, a lot. What are you going to tell Andy Ibanez when you're putting all these new guys on the roster? Hey, Andy, thanks for the memories. I mean,
no, Mark, never say never on all this kind of stuff. But I'm just saying, when you talk about who's going to play third base, the Tigers have two everyday type third basemen in Matt Vierling and Jace Jung.
Okay. I would say that Jace Jung starts the season at Toledo. If he rakes like crazy in April, yeah, maybe he comes up. But I see Zach McKinstry playing a lot more third base than Jace Jung early. It's just my 2 cents about it. But it should be fun. The next 6 weeks are going to be a lot of fun. And I can tell you that, AJ Hinch is going to have a lot of things to discuss. I'm sure tomorrow they will ask Scott about Nolan Arenado. You got 2 cents on that? I don't see Nolan Arenado waiving his no trade to come to Detroit. And I'm not so sure it's such a good idea anyway.
Yeah, that's the big thing is, the Tigers have poked around on that maybe a little bit, but Nolan Arenado, 3 years, $74 million remaining on his contract with the St. Louis Cardinals. The Cardinals would eat some of that money in any deal. There's heavy links of Arenado and the Red Sox, and it seemed like that might happen. Now, obviously, the Red Sox have Alex Bregman. But the big thing, is Nolan Arenado has the full no-trade clause. So he'd have to waive his no-trade clause to come to Detroit. I don't see that happening. It's not a good ballpark fit for him. It's probably not the best situation for him. He's a guy who wants to go play for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Understandably so. Everybody does. But again, he wouldn't waive his no-trade clause to go play for the Houston Astros, and that's a great ballpark for him. I don't see why he would waive a no-trade clause to go play for the Detroit Tigers. That's pretty unlikely to me. But again, I'm very pro, never say never on anything, but I just don't see Nolan Arenado to Detroit happening.
I think Evan Petzold wants to play for the Los Angeles Dodgers, by the way. So when you talk about everybody, I definitely could come out of the bullpen in relief for at least, 12, 14 appearances. I'm ready to go on that. All right. So, how was the first day of spring training before we get out of here? I want to know how fun was it to be on the field. I see they did some great work modernizing a bunch of the throwing mounds and covered them. And, so it looked pretty great. But so what'd you find out today?
Today's always the best day because you get an opportunity to go around the clubhouse and just check in with guys. And it's a lot I don't know, it's not as much like stick the audio recorder in their face and ask them a bunch of questions. Although Matt Vierling, I'm sorry, I did do that on all the Alex Bregman stuff. We did have a nice conversation there about Alex Bregman. But for the most part, though, it's really good on the first day to just kind of go around the clubhouse and check in with different guys, ask them how their families are doing. You're checking in about all their weddings because pretty much everybody is married, engaged, or having a kid nowadays in the Tigers clubhouse. So there's a lot that I have in common with some of those guys. So that's a lot of fun. And then you get outside and Mark, it's 80 degrees and sunny, and Tarek Skubal is throwing a bullpen to Jake Rogers on the backfields in Lakeland, Florida. Like, you just can't beat it. Like, you cannot beat the vibes in Lakeland, Florida at this time of year. So yeah, first day of pitchers and catchers reporting. That was Wednesday, February 12th. It was great. And you mentioned some of the upgrades at Tiger Town. I do want to highlight those. A roof over the existing half field that was converted to turf, a climate-controlled batting cage next to the existing batting facilities, and then a roof over the pitchers and catchers for 20 bullpen mounds, which the Tigers, they had 10 bullpen mounds before. Now they have 20. Pretty much everything has a roof now, so they can do rain or shine, day or night, no matter when it is. They got lights, all that kind of stuff. It's pretty good setup. They've definitely made some important upgrades, and I think those are certainly worth noting. Tarek Skubal, ace of the Tigers, he is a fan of the investment that the Tigers are making in their players. I just want to throw that out there because that was a Skubal quote that he gave to me after the workout today, so figured it's at least worth mentioning. But yeah, I mean, great first day. We still have, again, 42 days until opening day, so we've got a long way to go in this rodeo, but we're just getting started, and it's been a lot of fun so far.
All right, please tell my new best friend, Matt Vierling, that I was the one that has confidence in him playing third base. It seems shocking to everybody that knows us, but I'm all on board for the Matt Vierling at third base experiment. I like the flexibility. I like the other things. I'm going to buy into the young guys. I don't want any old guys coming in to play third base. I don't want a secret release of Brandon Drury by the Chicago White Sox so he can come play third base here. I don't need the recycled trash of other teams on a prayer. Let's go with what we got.
Wow. Mark Gorosh endorsing Matt Vierling. Everyone, that's all we have for this bonus episode on the Days of Roar podcast. Thanks to our producer, Robin Chan, for staying up super late with us to edit and publish. Check back for our regular hour-long episode. It drops on Monday. Until then, go in peace.